Choupette and Kim are not a match made in heaven after all. Khloe is constantly still being encouraged to forgive Tristan, and Scott Disick proves that he is most definitely the comedic genius of the bunch. Hey everyone, it's Hannah Fletcher and welcome back to Shared News. Let's talk all about the latest episode of The Kardashians on Hulu. There's a lot to unpack this episode. I'm going to just kick it off by saying, at this point, I feel like we are watching a curated vlog series of The Kardashians. And instead of having any expectations as to where I think this is going to go, I'm just going to sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Let's talk about the very first portion of the episode, which was the conversation of Kris and Khloe. Now, as you guys may or may not remember from last week, at the very end of season 4, episode 4, we saw that Kris and Khloe were having a very intense conversation where Khloe brought up the cheating scandal that took place many years ago between Kris Jenner and Robert Kardashian, ultimately what factored in heavily to ending their marriage. Now, we were left on a cliffhanger. We didn't know where that was going to go. I remember last week being so upset, but yet so excited to be able to tune in this week, and I feel like we got the conversation, and Kris did own the fact that she cheated on her husband, Robert Kardashian. Now, obviously, Kris was able to make this a learning moment for Khloe when they were having the conversation. She mentioned that she thought that the grass was greener on the other side, that she was very apologetic, that she was young and dumb. She also made a point that I thought was very unique. She did mention that if the whole thing didn't happen, she wouldn't have Kylie and Kendall. Now, she was very adamant that she is wanting Khloe to just really situate herself, make sure that her judgment is correct when it comes to Tristan and wanting to forgive Tristan, and that's the whole reason as to why they were having this conversation in the first place. She genuinely just wants for Khloe to have no regrets, and Khloe is definitely pulling on the side of, well, I have regrets if I'm not paying attention to my kids, and I'm using this as an opportunity to focus on my kids, focus on myself, not worry about the responsibilities of someone else. I personally love Khloe's mindset, and I cannot fathom that so many people around her are starting to try and change that. We'll get to the end of the episode here in a second, but I just think that there's so much going on, and I feel bad for Khloe. Khloe is correct. Why is no one acknowledging verbally through text in any way, shape, or form that Khloe is correct for holding her ground? I mean, Tristan has made so many mistakes, and they're not even little mistakes, they're big ones. Big ones. He should be lucky to even be seeing his children. So I don't understand why we are constantly being exposed to watching Khloe get questioned. And everybody that's questioning Khloe, starting with Kris, Corey eventually does it in the episode. It looks like Malika does it at the end too. Like, I love all of them. I don't understand where they're coming from though. Like, enough is enough at a point, because these are major mistakes that are detrimental to potentially even their kids, let alone to Khloe. I can't with it. I don't understand. I don't understand why we keep repeating offenses and then we keep repeating the forgiveness for that. You know, forgive and forget doesn't apply in Tristan's case. I don't think it wouldn't if that were my situation. So that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on to a more comedic portion of this episode, and that was Kim. Kim brought the comedy. Her and Scott, man, these two were just funny this episode. Now, Kim was obviously in Paris with her kids, and she wanted to see if her and Choupette, aka Karl's cat, Karl Lagerfeld, who is a very famous designer, she wanted to see if her and Choupette were a match. They ultimately were not, and it was so funny. I really love the fact that she was able to show this on camera. You know, I'm sure that there was a part of Kim that was like, should I show being bitten by a cat and hissed at by a cat on camera? But the answer is yes, because it seems like the Kardashians are trying to take the more human approach with the episodes, you know, so you might as well show more human things, i.e. getting hissed at and bitten by a cat. It was so funny. Now, she did mention that the cat was going to be a part of the Met Gala situation, that the cat was going to be her date actually to the Met Gala, but obviously there was no Met for Kitty because Kitty was not having a good time. Choupette was so mad after she came out of her little Louis Vuitton travel case. She was so upset and she did not want anything to do with Kim whatsoever. I'm not sure if that's just how the cat's demeanor is. It seems like Choupette kind of does whatever she wants, but I mean, she's Choupette, so she's got a little bit of a tude, but I thought that this was super funny. Now, we also did hear Kim kind of talk about a little bit the podcast that she was on, which if you guys remember back to, obviously, if you look at the timeline of the show more towards the beginning of this year, Kim mentioned that she went on Jay Shetty's podcast, and she did. I actually watched the episode. I'm a huge fan of that podcast. I really like Jay Shetty, and I think that it's really well done, and it's I love watching him as an interviewer. But she mentioned that a lot of people gave her a lot of backlash for going on that podcast She opened up about being a single mom on the podcast, and this also sparked a point in the episode 2 where she was mentioning about being a single mom, and yes, she has a chef, yes, she has a babysitter, but it's still hard, which it is. She did say it takes a village, and it does, and she also does have that village to be able to do so, but I'm glad that she still prioritizes her kids at the end of the day. She really obviously wants to be able to prioritize her kids as much as possible. That is something that's very evident in Kim. Yes, she's a single mom, but she does give a different meaning to the term single mom, because when you think of a single mom, you don't think of a mom that has a nanny and a chef and all of these people that are fortunately around Kim. You know, I think that it's a very different type of term. So maybe everybody was really backlashing because of the terminology. Maybe if she didn't use the phrase single mom, maybe that would have ended up a lot better for her. Because yes, she is single in terms of maritally. She does not have a partner that is there, or the father, or whatever you'd like to call it. She doesn't have that person there with her for the kids, but that's probably where things really went haywire and hit the fan. It's like, yeah, it's a single mom, but single with a plethora of support. So that was Kim's bit there for a while. Now let's talk about Scott and Kendall. Now Kendall went over to one of Scott's properties. She basically wanted to see if she was able to still flip the house. We learned that she's still interested in flipping homes, which I kind of figured she was, but I mean, obviously the girl's busy with work. Now she did mention that one of her dogs is having a very hard time. She thinks that maybe it's because it's adapting elements of her anxiety. She mentioned that she's very anxious. Her and Scott kind of bonded over that. This was good filler footage, nothing too crazy here. Now, I will skip ahead. I want to talk more about Scott and Kendall in tandem. There was a point in the episode where Scott and Kendall were talking. He had a procedure performed, which was a very brief. They were joking about that and bonding over the fact that Kris Jenner was present at the procedure at 5 a.m., but then darted out of nowhere. It was so short and she didn't remain to stick around or anything like that. He was upset, which I thought was very funny. But also, Kendall set up a sound bath. Now, if you can get through this episode, you have to get to this part. It is so funny. She set up a sound bath for her and for Scott to be able to calm the anxiety that they bonded over at the beginning of the episode. The fact that they have that. And Scott did not handle this sound bath well at all. He was evidently so tense the entire time. He was making jokes. He was asking questions. He was like asking so many questions. I don't know how the lady that was running the sound bath didn't just straight up leave the shoot. You could tell that Kendall was just like, oh my gosh, hush. But it was so funny. I really enjoyed this part of the episode. I think that I'm here for the funny moments on the Kardashians at this point, because at least they're like getting very realistic and like very human. Not that they weren't ever before, but I feel like they are starting to really branch out into that humanity aspect. You know, we're not seeing all just glamorous photo shoots anymore that are in these untouchable scenes. We're seeing more of like the realistic side of things, I feel like, especially this season. So to a certain extent. But I think it was really funny. I really recommend watching Scott and Kendall's sound bath portion of this episode. It was really, really funny. And Scott is a hoot. I mean, I feel like Scott is us. You know, I feel like Scott is the audience. So I think he's just funny. Next up, we had True's birthday party. So True, the big 5 for Miss True. She looked so cute. They had a birthday party for her, and there was a bunch that went on. We saw Courtney, we saw Kylie, of course we saw Kris. And Khloe was asked if she was being driven crazy by Tristan, to which she responded saying that it's been going on for a long time and it's nothing that she can't live with. She did mention that overall she's relatively comfortable with the situation. Now, what I found to be fascinating was the fact that Tristan and Corey were so chummy. Corey walked up to Tristan at the birthday party, you know, and again, the birthday party was beautiful. It was a great time, but Corey was being called dad by Tristan. Father of the Year was exchanged between the two of them. And then Corey also mentioned that Khloe's going to be absolutely crying and upset that Tristan is going to have the opportunity to move back into his home because his house is going to be fixed. And I don't think he should have said that at all. Corey, I love you, but what are you saying? I don't agree with that whatsoever, because the thing is, like, don't make it sound like she's going to be so distraught over the idea of Tristan not being there anymore, because I really don't think she is. I really, really think that everybody has wishful thinking for Khloe. It doesn't seem like that's where she stands. So I didn't understand why he said that. I really, really didn't. Now, Khloe did go on to express that she was very worried about the fact that Tristan is going to move out simply because she doesn't want anything negative to impact True if True is starting to retain these memories of her dad being around in the same house as her and everything like that. But at the same time, it seems like Khloe isn't going to do much about it. She's not going to move Earth to make Tristan stay. You know, she's still going to let Tristan go back to his house. ultimately he did end up going back to his house. So I thought that was very fascinating to see Corey walk up to Tristan and to have that exchange. I wasn't a fan of it personally. I really just didn't want to see that. And again, I don't think that we need to be pumping Tristan full of false hope and false narratives, because that's almost a reward in a way. He's already on the show. He's already making money off of Khloe. He's already got a job doing commentating and sports anchoring because of Kris Jenner. He's already capitalized on this family so much in his job, in his endeavors, and all the while hurting Khloe and confusing Khloe and just putting her now in a situation where everybody's team Tristan and against her, and that's not what it should be. So somebody make it make sense to me in the comments. If you can, please do. I will read the comments. I don't understand. All right, let's move on to Kim in Paris. Now, Kim went to Paris, obviously. She is on a tour de soccer with the kids and the parents. I think this is such a cute trip. I love that it's still continuing on. I love that she's able to share this experience with Saint and with all of his friends. The moms are having a blast. You can clearly tell. It's really great. Imagine just being invited to just go hop around Europe and see some games with Kim Kardashian. Like, gee, sign me up. Now, they went to the Paris Saint-Germain game, and obviously the boys were very excited. They got to interact with the players. One of the players wasn't even present, but he still FaceTimed. And also Kendall was there. She ended up poking over to the game because she was at a L'Oreal shoot, and she rushed out of a fitting to make sure that she could make it in time for the game. And Kim even mentioned that Saint now gets to learn Auntie Kendall even better. So I'm really glad that they were able to join up. I think that that's really great. I was really hoping, because when I saw it flash up on the screen, Paris, and then we see that they're going to the game, I'm like, oh, I know that Kendall mentioned about being in Paris. I'm hoping that she's able to go. So I thought that was very nice and very refreshing. Now, speaking of sisters that we haven't seen too much this season, I want to talk about Kourtney. Kourtney was so cute in this episode. She was shooting for Lemmy, and she was talking about all of her new content and the new products that she has. It was so fun. I forgot what it's like to see Kourtney not pregnant, because I've been really trying to follow her pregnancy journey as much as publicly possible. And even this was a time she mentioned at one point during this episode, she's sugar-free, gluten-free, everything free. I don't even know what she's eating. She must... Grass? What do you eat? She's incredible to me in terms of like how she can just still survive but not eat all of these things. Like I don't understand. But she basically was in this episode to just have fun. We saw her doing a lot of different content for Lemmy. We also saw Kourtney reading mean tweets, which I thought was so funny. She mentioned that basically silly criticism doesn't bother her, but anything with intense and hateful context, that does bother her. But she was having fun. She was clapping back at any haters. She looked great. She was having a good time with her team. It was just refreshing to see Kourtney back on my screen. I was wondering what she's up to, and I'm hoping that this is kind of an introductory point in this season where we get to see her kind of being reintroduced, and I'm hoping that we get the Travis I'm pregnant sign in this season. I'm really, really hoping for it because I want to see it, and I really hope we get that. So maybe this is her kind of coming back into the season, and maybe she's here to stay for the rest of it. Or maybe she'll pop in and out, but I'm really hoping that we at least get that. We gotta see that, right? That's too good to not get on camera. You think Kris Jenner's gonna let her get pregnant and not document it? No, we'll see it. I hope. Comment down below and let me know what you guys think. All right, and then let's wrap it up with Khloe and Malika. So these two clearly haven't seen each other in a minute, and they reconvened. They were having what looked like some type of meal with one another. And I really liked where Malika was going at the beginning of this particular scene. Didn't like where it kind of ended. So she was talking to Khloe about how she really felt like she needed to get back out there. She wanted to see her back out at parties, go shopping, go do fun things. She mentioned going to Home Goods and Target, which I would love to see those two try to go to Home Goods and Target. Like that would be a paparazzi-ridden shopping center, that would be so wild for them to do, but I see where the intention is. So she mentioned that she wanted to see her go out and do more things, and that she needs to start to think about the version of herself that she wants to become and start to do that. Khloe, of course, is pushing back and saying that she's not looking to do anything. Khloe just wants to be left alone. I don't understand why people are pushing her so much. I really like the fact that she's involving herself solely with her kids and just like thriving through life as much as possible, but without putting in a ton of external effort. I mean, also, Khloe's running Good America, and she's got a lot of other things going on. I don't know why people think that Khloe is just like sitting at home and just scrolling on Instagram while her kids are like there and she's just sad. Like, I feel like everybody thinks that of her, and I'm confident that that is just not simply the case. Now, Malika did bring up Tristan, of course. She asked about if he was in the house again, and Khloe at that point in time said yes, he had just moved back into the house. And then she was asking about where they stand. Now, Khloe mentioned that she's been cheated on before. She said, but this time it was absolutely worse. He got another girl pregnant and kept that a secret while they were pregnant with Tatum. This was her second pregnancy. This is just one of the things that he's done most recently. So for her to bring that up on camera again, I feel like that's a really big reminder as to like, Tristan's done things, we know this, but she's getting specific about what it is that he's done and done recently. And Malika seems very much unfazed. And I really can't understand that. Now, Malika seemed like she was very much on the side of Chris and Corey and somewhat Kim too, with the idea of like, well, do you want to forgive him? Do you want to repair your relationship with him? Like saving the family, like all of these things that I felt like were way too intense. I feel like the entire scene was too intense. I feel like her trying to talk Khloe into doing things that she didn't want to do was too much. I thought that the Tristan portion was really too much, you know, and I really like Malika, so I'm not understanding. I feel like maybe producers were kind of pushing her to kind of go there with Khloe, knowing that it's a friend and maybe she can, but I thought that it was really, really odd that she was saying about even saving the family. I don't feel like the family is broken. He lives a block away. The family is not broken. It's not broken at all. If it were broken, he would live on the other side of the country and pay Khloe child support, just like he has to pay child support to how many other mothers of his children that he doesn't tend to. The family's not broken. Their family is very much intact. He has other children with more broken families than what he has with Khloe. So for her to say that, I was like, that is a steep step. I don't agree with that either. I really like Malika. I feel like this had to be producer enhanced in some way, shape, or form. I really doubt that she meant that, but maybe she did. I don't know. Everybody seems to just be Team Tristan, but she also tried to get more information out of Khloe, and she was prying, you know, maybe she knows something we don't know, but she was like, not ever, not right now. And Khloe was like, yeah, no, definitely not right now. And I wanted to hear Khloe indefinitely say not ever. But I think Khloe's also just tired. So I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt on that one. But again, there's so much to unpack. You can look at it from so many different angles and so many different perceptions. But at the end of the day, like I said before, I think that this is the Kardashian vlogs, and I am just going to be here for it at this point. I don't exactly know what else I want from this season. I know that I want to see Kourtney's side more. Love to see more of Kylie and Kendall as always. Really hoping that we see a little bit into the love life situation with Bad Bunny and Timothée Chalamet. Doubt we will, but I know that we're going to get to learn more about American Horror Story, which was very controversial for Kim Kardashian. So again, I feel like it's the Khloe, Kris, and Kim show, and then everybody else is like, and company. So I'm not mad at it. I am always really a fan of watching this show. I've grown up with it, so it's very nostalgic and sentimental to me. But I definitely feel like the luster is lacking, and I think that the drama is not very existent. I feel like as soon as we start to get something that is dramatic, it either gets blown out of proportion in a trailer to make you think that it's gonna be 10 times more dramatic, ultimately driving viewership, or it is squashed before it even bubbles up into something. Which, if that's just a conversation that you're having with your family member, fine, but when it is a TV show, it is a TV show, and you kind of have to give the people what they want to a certain extent. And hopefully the audience is able to separate enough of heightened reality versus what might actually be reality. But who knows at the end of the day? I want to know what you guys are thinking of this season of the Kardashians so far. What did you guys think of this episode? High moments, low moments that you do or don't agree with. Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments below. I love reading your comments, especially on these videos, because I feel like you guys are very much in alignment with other users on social media, but also with me too. And I think it's really fun to also gain different perceptions and perspectives too. So let me know all of your thoughts down below as per usual. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to like this video if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button and turn those notifications on so you don't miss out on any of our future videos, especially when it comes to the Kardashians. As always, I'm your host, Hannah Fletcher. You guys can follow me on social media. My handle is right there on the screen. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.